Okay, I wanted to jump on here and offer some Neptune retrograde insight. Because if you received my newsletters, you got the one today, and I spoke about the hard truth about Neptune retrograde. But then there's a flip side of that through my viewpoint, and that is that Neptune, of course, is like spirit. It is sometimes the dream, the fantasy, the illusion, the sort of wispy, watery depths. And so going in retrograde, that can cause us to reflect on some of those dreams and see through them, see through the illusion. It's like the flipped moon card in the tarot, where the illusion now is seen through. The intuition sharpens. But the other part of that is really being able to see that deeper dream, that dream behind the dream, the one that is really like the motivation for the dreaming that we've been doing. And if we can kind of retrace those steps, then we can find a nugget of truth. So I wanted to take you to what I discovered today in my retrograde Neptune meditation, and that is that retracing the steps of the Garden of Eden, or the fall. The story that is, to many in Judeo-Christian tradition, this is a fundamental piece of the story, is this Adam and Eve in the garden. However, as we study the mysteries and we look at how some of these stories are symbolic to the awakening of our consciousness, if we break this story down, we can see by learning to see the benefits of and love and praise what things were brought forth by this fall, and really what these elements maybe represent to us, so that we can kind of retrace our steps in a way. So let me tell you the story from a different perspective and you maybe have heard some of these parts. But so we have this masculine feminine who actually doesn't know itself to be separate, because unity, God consciousness, is this pre-fallen state. So this is a story of moving from unity consciousness into duality consciousness. So how do we do that? Well, just like we are returning to unity consciousness, we need the help of life force energy, which is the Kundalini, the serpent, which is also that temptation. The temptation to know good and bad, to know duality. And so the feminine aspect is the teacher of this wisdom. The feminine is always the tantrika, so she takes the seed, she takes the apple. The apple is the perfect symbol of the tube torus, the flower of life, this perfect life force energy symbol. Which, funny enough, in Snow White, that is where the poison is, which could be akin to the fall. But it is a fall in frequency so we could get the codes of duality. Why? What codes? Well, in my perspective, as a unified field of consciousness, we get sort of used to what that feels like to be in the unity field. And we aren't really experiencing a lot of diversity or richness in our God essence. We're just sort of used to it. One might even say we got kind of bored with it, and we wanted to deepen our experience of self, of God's self. So we allowed ourselves to be tempted by life force, tempt us further into an experience of our essential nature. Tempt us further into a deeper expression of what it means to be all of this. And also to really re-experience all the sense organs and our ability to taste, touch, feel, hear, smell, and interact with this plane of existence, with the tactile, with that which is touchable. Because when we do that, we bring God consciousness into that. And getting the codes means we touched into the solid. And now we lift it up with our awareness back to the unity field through the same means, back through the use of the Kundalini life force, the serpent in the spine. So how do we utilize the benefits of these elements of the fall, so to speak? Well, by studying attitudes of ascension through one of my main teachers, Almeen. That's actually the tattoos that I have here, the attitudes of ascension, love, praise, and gratitude. That these are actually anti-gravity attitudes. In other words, they are attitudes of levitation or ascension. So when we bring love, praise, and gratitude into the attitudes or the experiences, the elements of the fall, in other words, we find honor for them, we honor the temptation, we honor the separation, we honor all these elements, that the good and the bad, and we see the benefit in them so that we can recapitulate, we can bring them back into self, and this is how we unify again, come back into a unified field. Is we have to see the benefit, we have to reabsorb these things by loving that about us too. So on this Neptune retrograde that lasts through December the 1st of 2021, if you can just take this time to look at all the elements in your life that maybe represent the fall or evil, or these elements that one might think is shame, the nakedness, the forgetting of unity, all these elements, what we might call bad, sin, and so forth, if we can look at those as a beautiful thing, as an honorable thing that took us on the journey of greater experience of ourself, so that God consciousness could be imbued into this level, this plane of existence. And then we spiritualize all of that, because we are the God force too. The unity field comes into and absorbs back up the duality. We don't move away from duality, we absorb it, we are all of it. They then exist within the unified field as, opposing forces, but when we're not looking at it from a dualistic separation standpoint, it's really like the paint palette or the scale of notes that has its polarity, but neither one is bad or good. They just are a spectrum. And this way we integrate the full spectrum of our chakra system, from our raw nature at the base all the way to our spiritual. We integrate all of that, and therefore we integrate what that garden experience is through what I like to say is Lilith consciousness. Lilith, who is like, I'm not having any of this goody-goody. I just want to be authentic. That part of our consciousness gets to go to work to integrate and see the benefit of all these experiences of separation. So I hope that makes sense. If you have any questions, feel free to make a comment or send me an email, stasiabliss@gmail.com. Or if you want to work with me, also reach out, let me know. Otherwise, a blessed Friday to you, or whatever day you're watching this, all the way through this Neptune retrograde. May you see the dream behind the dream, the true reason for all the dreaming. And then our truest dreams of unity can come true.